Hey, can you hear me?
He was curled up on the sidewalk, no coat. Snow clung to his hair, trembling too much to speak. Olivia knelt beside him. 12 hours of dishwashing for $6 an hour. Fingers chapped, stomach rumbling.
I'll warm you up, okay?
Don't.
His voice trembled.
Go home.
She took off her scarf, navy blue, knitted by her mother during chemotherapy. 4 months of shaky stitches, the last thing her mother ever made. She wrapped it around him, just like her mother used to blanket her.
Why?
His eyes were red.
His eyes were red. You don't know me.
I don't need to.
She was homeless. He looked homeless too. 2 strangers sharing the only thing one of them had left. She thought she would never see him again. She was wrong. What happened next changed both their lives forever. 6 months earlier, Olivia Turner had a home. It wasn't much. A 1-bedroom apartment on the south side of Chicago. Cracked walls, a radiator that worked half the time. But it was hers and her mother's. They shared a bed because the couch was broken, and every night Grace Turner would pull the blanket up to Olivia's chin and say, "We don't need much, baby. We just need each other." Then the diagnosis came. Stage 4, pancreatic. The doctor said 6 months. Grace lasted 4. Olivia was 18 when she sat beside her mother's hospital bed for the last time. The machines beeped slower. Grace's hand, the same hand that braided Olivia's hair every Sunday morning, that stirred soup from almost nothing, that held her through every storm, that hand went still. But before it did, Grace reached under her pillow and pulled out a scarf. Navy blue, wool, hand-knitted. "I made this for you," she whispered. 4 months. Couldn't feel my fingers most days, but I finished it. Olivia held it against her face. It smelled like the hospital, like medicine and thin sheets and goodbye. "When you wear it," Grace said, "I'm hugging you." 3 days later, Grace Turner was gone. The bills came before the grief did. $14,000 in medical debt. No insurance. No savings. The hospital sent letters, then a collection agency, then an eviction notice for the apartment, because Grace had fallen behind on rent during treatment, and nobody told Olivia until it was too late. At 19, Olivia Turner was homeless. She found Halstead Community Shelter on the west side. 40 beds, first come, first served. Doors opened at 5 p.m. If you weren't in line by 4, you slept outside. The rules were simple. No drugs, no alcohol, no guests. Lights out at 10, out by 6 a.m. Every morning, rain or snow or heat, everybody out. Olivia learned the rhythm fast. Wake up at 5:30, roll up the thin mattress, wash her face in the communal bathroom, cold water only. Walk 14 blocks to Tony's Diner on Ashland Avenue. Clock in at 7. Scrub dishes until the skin on her knuckles split. Clock out at 7 p.m. Walk back, get in line. Hope there's a bed. Tony paid her $6.50 an hour. Cash. No benefits. No breaks longer than 10 minutes. He was a thick man with a red face who yelled when plates came back dirty, and yelled louder when they didn't come back fast enough. "You're slow today, girl." "Sorry, Tony." "Sorry doesn't clean dishes." She never talked back. Couldn't afford to. This job was the only thing between her and nothing. On good days, she made $52. On bad days, when Tony sent her home early because business was slow, she made half that. Rent at the shelter was free, but food wasn't. A sandwich from the corner store cost $4. A coffee cost $2. She ate once a day most weeks, twice if she was lucky. The scarf never left her neck. Winter, spring, summer, it didn't matter. That navy blue wool stayed wrapped around her, pressed against her throat like a pulse. Other girls at the shelter asked about it. "Aren't you hot?" "No." "It's July, Olivia." "I'm fine." She wasn't fine. But the scarf smelled less like the hospital now. It smelled like her. Like dish soap and city rain and the lavender lotion Martha sometimes left on her pillow. Martha. The one good thing. Martha Coleman, 62, ran Halstead Shelter with a voice like gravel and a heart she pretended she didn't have. She'd been running it for 19 years, seen thousands of faces come and go. Most went back to the streets. Some went to jail. A few, a very few, climbed out. She noticed Olivia on the third night. The girl didn't complain, didn't ask for extra, didn't steal. She just folded her blanket, tucked that scarf around her neck, and walked out the door every morning before anyone else. Martha started saving her a bed. She never told Olivia, just made sure bed number 14, the one closest to the heater, was open when the girl walked in. And some nights, when Olivia came back late from Tony's with her hands cracked and bleeding, Martha would leave a small bowl of soup by the bed with a note. Eat. M. They never talked about it. That was the deal. No pity, no charity. Just quiet kindness passed between two people who understood what it meant to survive. But the nights were getting colder. November came hard that year. Temperatures dropped below zero. The shelter filled up faster. Some nights, people were turned away before 4:30. Olivia started leaving Tony's earlier, walking faster, cutting through alleys she normally avoided. The scarf wasn't enough anymore. She needed a coat. But coats cost money, and money meant food, and food meant tomorrow. So she chose tomorrow. Every time. And every night, she pressed her mother's scarf against her face and whispered the same thing. "I'm still walking, Mama. I'm still walking." But tonight, the city had something else planned for Olivia Turner. The snow started at 6. Olivia was still at Tony's, elbow deep in grease water, when the first flakes hit the window. Light at first, almost pretty. By 6:30, the wind picked up. By 7, the streets turned white. Tony stood at the front door, arms crossed. "We're closing early. Nobody's coming in this." "Can I stay until it passes?" He looked at her like she'd asked for a raise. "This ain't a hotel, girl. Go home." She didn't say she didn't have one. She stepped outside, and the cold hit her like a wall. The temperature had dropped fast, 15 below with wind chill. The snow wasn't falling anymore. It was flying, sideways, into her eyes, her ears, the gaps between her collar and her skin. The scarf helped. She pulled it tight, tucked her chin behind the wool, her mother's stitches against her throat, that small warmth. She started walking. 14 blocks to the shelter. She knew the route by heart. Down Ashland, left on Division, straight past the laundromat, the liquor store, the church with the broken steeple. She'd walked it 200 times, but never like this. The sidewalks were buried. Every step sank ankle deep. The wind pushed her backward. She leaned into it, arms wrapped around herself, fingers jammed into her armpits because she had no gloves. Nobody else was outside. Cars crept past with their headlights barely cutting through the white. A bus stop sign rattled so hard it sounded like it might snap. Somewhere behind her, a car alarm went off, and nobody came to stop it. 10 blocks to go. Her teeth chattered so hard her jaw ached. Her sneakers were soaked through. She could feel the cold climbing up from her toes, past her ankles, settling into her bones like it planned to stay. 8 blocks. She thought about her mother, the last winter they spent together. Grace had found a coat at Goodwill, oversized, ugly, brown corduroy with a broken zipper. But she'd sewn the zipper herself, sat at the kitchen table with a needle for 3 hours. And when Olivia put it on, Grace clapped like it was Fashion Week. "You look beautiful, baby." "Mama, it's hideous." "Beautiful." That coat was gone now, somewhere in the eviction, thrown into a bag she never got back. 6 blocks. The snow thickened. Visibility dropped to nothing. Olivia couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead. She kept her head down and counted steps. 1, 2, 3. A rhythm to keep moving, like a heartbeat. Then she saw him. At first she thought it was a pile of trash bags against the side of a building. Dark shape, half buried, not moving. But then the shape shifted. A hand reached out from the snow and pressed against the ground, trying to push up, failing. Olivia stopped. A young man, white, maybe 22, 23. Thin jacket. No, not even a jacket. A blazer. The kind you wear to an office, not a blizzard. Dress shoes caked in snow. No hat, no scarf, no gloves. He was curled against the wall with his knees to his chest. A leather briefcase lay next to him, dusted white. It looked expensive. Even through the snow, she could see the brass buckles, the stitching. It didn't match anything else about him. His lips were pale. His eyes were half open, but unfocused. His whole body shook in short, violent bursts, the kind of shaking that comes right before the body gives up and goes still. Olivia's first thought, I need to get to the shelter. Doors close at 9. It's already past 8. If I stop, I lose my bed. If I lose my bed, I sleep outside. In this. Her second thought, he's going to die out here. Her third thought, and it came in her mother's voice, clear as a bell, like Grace Turner was standing right behind her in the snow. Kindness is never wasted. Olivia looked toward the shelter. 6 blocks away. Warm. Safe. A bed with her name held by Martha. She looked at the man on the ground. A stranger. Nobody to her. She walked toward him. Hey, can you hear me? Nothing. She knelt down, put her hand on his shoulder. He flinched, not from fear, but from the shock of being touched, like nobody had touched him in days. Can you hear me? I need you to talk to me. His mouth moved, no sound. Then, barely, leave me. Not happening. She gripped his arm and tried to pull him up. He was heavier than she expected. Dead weight. Her knees buckled, but she held on. Come on, work with me. He pushed against the wall. Slowly. She pulled. Together, they got him standing. Barely. He swayed. She caught him. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, kneeling in the snow beside a man who looked like he had nothing, was that the briefcase next to him contained documents worth more than every building on this block combined. She half carried him to the nearest awning, a closed shoe repair shop with a narrow overhang barely wide enough for two. The wind still cut through, but at least the snow couldn't reach them here. She leaned him against the wall. He slid down to the ground. She sat beside him. His breathing was shallow, fast. His hands were bone white and trembling. She took them between hers, her cracked dish soap hands, and rubbed, hard, the way her mother used to warm her fingers on cold mornings before school. "Stay with me, okay? What's your name?" A long pause. Then, "Ethan." "Ethan, I'm Olivia. Can you feel your hands?" He shook his head. She rubbed harder. His fingers slowly curled around hers. Not gripping, just holding. Like he'd forgotten what that felt like. She looked at his clothes. A blazer over a wrinkled dress shirt. Dress shoes with no socks. This man hadn't dressed for a snowstorm. He'd dressed for a meeting. Days ago, maybe. The shirt had a stain on the collar. The blazer was torn at the elbow. "How long have you been out here?" "I don't know." His voice was dry, cracked. "What day is it?" "Thursday." He closed his eyes. 3 days, I think. 3 days. In November. In Chicago. Olivia didn't ask why. Not yet. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a bread roll, the one she'd taken from the diner. Tony let her keep the day-old bread sometimes. Half the time it was hard as a rock. Tonight it was soft. She'd been saving it for the walk home. She broke it in half, held one piece out to him. He stared at it. "That's your dinner." "We'll share." "I can't take your food." "You're not taking it. I'm giving it." He looked at her for a long time. Then he took it, bit into it slowly, chewed like he'd forgotten how. His eyes welled up, but nothing fell. He just chewed and swallowed and stared at the snow. They ate in silence. Two people on a frozen sidewalk, splitting a roll that weighed less than a fist. The wind howled past the awning. Snow piled up around their feet. But under that narrow roof, for a few minutes, the world shrank to something almost bearable. Olivia finished her half first. She pulled her knees up and wrapped her arms around them. Without the scarf, her neck was bare. The cold bit into the skin beneath her jaw, crept down her spine. She clenched her teeth to stop the shaking. Ethan noticed. "Your scarf," he said. He reached for the navy blue wool around his neck. "Take it back." "No." "You're freezing." "I said no." "Why did you give it to me? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Olivia was quiet for a moment. She looked at the snow falling beyond the awning, thick and steady now, almost peaceful, if you forgot how cold it was. "My mom made that scarf," she said. "She was sick, cancer. She couldn't hold the needles most days. Her hands would shake so bad she'd drop stitches and have to start the row over. It took her 4 months." Ethan's hand went still on the wool. "She finished it 2 weeks before she died. Gave it to me in the hospital. Said when I wear it, she's hugging me." She paused. "She's been gone 6 months. That scarf is the only thing I have left of her. The only thing in this world that's mine." "Then why?" "Because she didn't make it so I could keep it safe in a drawer somewhere. She made it so someone could be warm." Ethan didn't respond. He pressed the scarf against his face, and for the first time, Olivia saw his shoulders drop. The tension that had been holding him together, whatever it was, cracked. My dad died 3 weeks ago, he said. Olivia turned to look at him. He was the only person who ever believed in me. Everyone else, they just wanted what he built. The second he was gone, they turned on me. All of them. Every single one. His voice broke. Not dramatically. Quietly. The way things break when they've been holding too long. I lost everything. Not just him. Everything. They locked me out. Froze my accounts. Told me I wasn't capable. That I was too young. Too emotional. That I'd run everything into the ground. He laughed. Short. Bitter. So I walked out. And I just kept walking. 3 days. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. Olivia looked at him. A 23-year-old man in a torn blazer, sitting on a frozen sidewalk, holding a dead woman's scarf. She looked at herself, a 19-year-old girl with no home, no family, no coat, splitting her only meal with a stranger. Different lives, same wreckage. I know what that feels like, she said. Losing the one person who made everything make sense, and then the world just keeps going, like it didn't notice. Ethan looked at her, really looked. Not through her, the way people on the street always did, not past her, the way Tony did, at her. Like she was the first real thing he'd seen in days. How do you keep going? He asked. Olivia stared at the snow. She thought about it. The real answer, not the brave answer, not the inspirational answer. The truth. I don't know, she said. I just don't stop walking. Even when I don't know where I'm going, I just don't stop. Ethan was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Your mother must have been something. Olivia smiled. Small. The first real smile in weeks. She was everything. They sat in silence after that. Not an awkward silence. The kind that happens when two people understand each other too well to fill the space with noise. The snow kept falling. The wind kept cutting. But neither of them moved. At some point, Olivia realized Ethan's hand was resting near hers on the cold concrete. Not touching, just close. Like a question he didn't know how to ask. She didn't move her hand away. They stayed like that. Two strangers on the worst night of the year, sitting under an awning that barely kept the snow off, sharing warmth they didn't have enough of. And for the first time in 6 months, Olivia Turner didn't feel alone. But she didn't know his last name. She didn't know what was in the briefcase. She didn't know that the man sitting next to her, eating half a bread roll like it was the best meal he'd ever had, was the sole heir to a $400 million empire. All she knew was that tonight he was cold, and she could help. That was enough. The snow slowed around midnight. Not stopped, just slowed, from a roar to a whisper. The wind pulled back. The streetlights came through again, dim and orange, turning the fresh snow into something that almost looked soft. Olivia checked the time on the clock tower 3 blocks down. 12:15. The shelter locked its doors at 9. She'd missed it by 3 hours. Tonight, she had nowhere to sleep. She didn't say that. I should go, she said. Ethan looked at her. The color had come back to his face. Not much, but enough. His hands had stopped shaking. The scarf was wrapped twice around his neck, and he'd tucked his chin into it the same way Olivia always did. Like he already knew it was more than wool. Where are you going? He asked. I'll figure it out. It's after midnight. It's still freezing. I've slept outside before. He stared at her. Something shifted behind his eyes. Not pity. Olivia knew pity. She'd seen it in the faces of social workers, in the way store clerks watched her pockets, in Tony's voice when he handed her bread like he was doing her the world's greatest favor. This wasn't pity. This was recognition. The look of someone who suddenly understood they were sitting next to a person stronger than they were. "Take the scarf back," he said. He started unwinding it. Olivia put her hand over his, gently, stopping him. "Keep it." "Olivia, you need it more than I do. You don't even have a coat." "My mom made that scarf for someone who needs it. Right now, that's you." "And tomorrow, when I'm gone and you're out here alone?" She pulled her hand back, smiled. Not a big smile, just the edge of one. The kind that holds everything it doesn't say. "I'll be okay. I always am." Ethan held the scarf against his chest. His jaw tightened. He wanted to argue. She could see it, the way his mouth opened and closed, searching for words that wouldn't come. Because what do you say to someone who gives you the last thing they own and asks for nothing back? He reached for his briefcase. Olivia noticed his hand hesitate on the brass buckle. He almost opened it. Almost. Then he stopped, pulled his hand away. "At least tell me your full name," he said, "so I know who to thank." Olivia shook her head. "Olivia's enough." She stood up, brushed the snow off her jeans. Her legs were stiff, her sneakers squished with every step. The cold had settled deep now, not the sharp kind that bites, but the slow kind that sits in your chest and doesn't leave. Ethan stood too, slower. He was taller than she'd realized. Even hunched, even broken, he stood a full head above her. In the orange streetlight, with snow on his shoulders and her mother's scarf around his neck, he looked like someone who'd been lost and was just starting to remember the way back. "Olivia." She turned. "Thank you." His voice cracked on the second word. "I mean it. Not just for the scarf. For stopping." She nodded. "Take care of yourself, Ethan." She turned and walked into the snow. Didn't look back. If she looked back, she might not leave. And Olivia Turner had learned a long time ago that the only way to survive was to keep walking forward. Ethan watched her until she disappeared. Then he looked down at the scarf, ran his fingers along the edge, found the stitching in the corner. Small, uneven letters sewn in navy thread against navy wool, almost invisible unless you were looking. Grace T. He pressed his thumb against the letters, held it there. Then he picked up his briefcase, turned the opposite direction, and walked. But for the first time in 3 days, Ethan Brooks knew exactly where he was going. Olivia found an alcove behind St. Benedict's Church, the one with the broken steeple. She'd slept there once before. That night was warm. Tonight, the concrete was ice. She sat with her back against the wall, knees to her chest, arms wrapped tight. No scarf, no blanket. She pressed her bare neck against her shoulder and tried to remember the weight of the wool. For the first time since Grace died, Olivia cried. Not because she regretted giving it away. She'd do it again. She cried because the scarf had been her last conversation with her mother. The last thing that said, "I was here. I loved you." And now it was around the neck of a stranger she would never see again. She cried until her chest hurt. Then she stopped, wiped her face, closed her eyes. "I'm still walking, Mama." She slept, sitting up, shivering. alone. Morning came gray and sharp. Olivia peeled herself off the concrete, legs numb, back aching. She walked to Tony's on autopilot, clocked in, scrubbed plates, said nothing. Her hand kept reaching for her neck, touching bare skin where the scarf used to be. Every time a small sting. Every time she let it go. 14 blocks away, Ethan Brooks walked into the lobby of the Peninsula Hotel. The night manager nearly dropped his phone. "Mr. Brooks, sir, we've been trying to reach you for 3 days. Your office called. Your attorney—" "I need a room and a phone." The manager snapped his fingers. A bellhop brought a charging cable. Another brought water. A third reached for his briefcase. Ethan held on to it. Upstairs, 14 missed calls from Harrison Wells, 22 emails from the board, 3 voicemails from Victoria Caldwell. He ignored all of them. He dialed one number. "Harrison? Ethan? Where the hell have you—" "I need you to find someone. Her name is Olivia. I met her near Halstead and Division. She was heading toward a community shelter. 19. Black." He stopped, looked at the scarf in his hands, ran his thumb across the stitching. Grace T. "She gave me something I need to return, but not just that. I need her full name, where she lives, what happened to her. Everything." "Ethan, the board meeting is in 48 hours. Victoria is—" "Find her first. The board can wait." He hung up, sat on the edge of a bed that cost more per night than Olivia made in a month, and he held the scarf against his face, the way she told him her mother used to hold her. By morning, Harrison Wells had a name, an address, and a file. What he didn't have was any idea how much that scarf was about to be worth. Harrison Wells had been Ethan Brooks's family attorney for 11 years. He'd handled Raymond Brooks's estate, 14 commercial properties across Chicago, New York, and Miami. He'd drafted the will. He'd sat in the hospital room when Raymond took his last breath and watched Ethan crumble like a building losing its foundation. He'd also watched what happened after. Victoria Caldwell moved fast. Within 72 hours of Raymond's death, she'd called an emergency board meeting. Within a week, she'd convinced 6 of the 9 directors that Ethan was unfit, too young, too emotional, too inexperienced. She used words like liability and fiduciary responsibility and transitional leadership. What she meant was, the old man is gone and his son is in the way. They froze Ethan's accounts, changed the locks on his office, blocked his access to company systems. Harrison fought it, filed motions, demanded hearings, but the legal machinery was slow and Victoria was faster. Ethan didn't fight. That was the part that scared Harrison the most. The boy, and Harrison still thought of him as a boy, even at 23, just walked out, left his phone on the desk, left his apartment keys, took his briefcase, and disappeared. 3 days. No calls, no texts, no credit card activity. Harrison had people checking hospitals, police stations, shelters. Nothing. Then, at 1:30 in the morning, the phone rang. "Find her first. The board can wait." Harrison didn't sleep that night. By 6 a.m., he had a trail. Grace T., the initials on the scarf. He started with public death records. Cook County. Cancer. Female. Last 6 months. Grace Turner. Died May 14th at Cook County Hospital. Pancreatic cancer. No insurance. Survived by 1 daughter, Olivia Turner, age 19. Last known address, 4417 South Ashland Avenue, apartment 3B. Evicted August 2nd for unpaid rent. Forwarding address, none. Harrison pulled up the shelter registry. Halstead Community Shelter. Olivia Turner. Checked in September 9th. Active resident. Bed 14. Then he pulled her financial records. No bank account. No credit history. One employer on file. Tony's Diner. 2,891 Ashland Avenue. Hourly wage, $6.50. Estimated monthly income, $780. Harrison sat back in his chair. He'd seen a lot in 30 years of law. Corporate fraud, estate battles, families tearing each other apart over money. But this, a 19-year-old girl with nothing, giving away the last thing her dead mother made her to a stranger on the street. This was something he didn't have a legal term for. He called Ethan at 7 a.m. Her name is Olivia Turner, 19. Mother died 6 months ago. Grace Turner, pancreatic cancer. No father in the picture. She lost the apartment to medical debt. She's been living at Halstead Community Shelter since September. Works at a diner washing dishes. Makes less in a month than your hotel room costs per night. Silence on the line. Ethan? She didn't tell me any of that. What did she tell you? That she'd be okay. That she always is. More silence. Harrison could hear Ethan breathing. Slow. Deliberate. The way Raymond used to breathe before making a decision that would change everything. Harrison, I want you to set up a foundation. A foundation? In her mother's name. Grace Turner Foundation. Fund it from my personal trust, not the company. Victoria can't touch it. What kind of foundation? Homeless outreach, winter relief, coats, scarves, food, shelter connections. Run it out of Chicago first, expand later. Harrison wrote it down. And who runs it? She does, Olivia. Ethan, she's 19. She has more qualification than anyone I've ever met. She's been living it, Harrison, every single day. Harrison paused. He'd known Ethan his whole life. Watched him grow up quiet and uncertain in his father's shadow. Watched him shrink smaller every time Raymond's business partners talked over him at dinner. Watched him doubt himself so deeply that when Raymond died, the board didn't even have to push hard. He just stepped aside. But the voice on the phone right now didn't sound like that, Ethan. What else? Harrison asked. Full scholarship. University of Illinois, Chicago. Social work. Set it up through the trust. Done. An apartment. Something small. Safe. Near the university. Done. And Harrison, I'm going with you. When you go to the shelter, I'm coming. Ethan, is that wise? If the board finds out you're spending trust money on... The board doesn't get a vote on how I spend my father's money. That's what the will says. That's what you told me 3 weeks ago. Harrison smiled, for the first time in 3 weeks. Yes, sir. That's exactly what the will says. Meanwhile, Olivia was at Tony's Diner. Same station, same grease, same aching hands. The lunch rush was light. Snow kept people home. She scrubbed a pot that didn't need scrubbing, just to keep her hands busy. Her mind kept drifting. To the man in the snow. To the way he'd said her name. To the way his hand had rested near hers on the concrete. Not touching, just close. She shook her head. Stupid. She'd never see him again. People like her didn't get second chapters. They got the same page, over and over, until the book closed. She reached for her neck. Bare skin. You're daydreaming again, Tony barked from the kitchen. Move it! Yes, Tony. She scrubbed harder. She didn't know that 4 miles away, a black sedan was pulling out of a hotel parking garage. She didn't know that inside it sat a man holding her mother's scarf, rehearsing what he would say when he saw her again. She didn't know that the briefcase beside him, the one she'd noticed but never asked about, contained the original will of Raymond Brooks, naming Ethan sole heir to a $400 million real estate empire. And she definitely didn't know that in less than 24 hours, that man would walk through the shelter door and change her life forever. The black sedan pulled up outside Halstead Community Shelter at 9:47 the next morning. Harrison Wells stepped out first. Gray suit, polished shoes, a leather folder under his arm. He looked at the building, paint peeling, windows foggy, a line of people already forming at the side entrance, and adjusted his tie like a man who'd just stepped onto a different planet. Ethan stepped out second. He wore a navy coat, clean shirt, hair combed back. He looked like a different person from the man shaking in the snow 2 nights ago. But his eyes were the same. Nervous, searching. He was holding the scarf. Martha Coleman met them at the front desk. She looked Harrison up and down the way she looked at everyone who came through that door wearing anything nicer than a hoodie. "Can I help you?" "We're looking for Olivia Turner," Harrison said. "My name is Harrison Wells. I'm an attorney representing—" "What did she do?" "Nothing. She—" "Then why does she need a lawyer?" Harrison opened his mouth. Martha didn't let him finish. "That girl hasn't caused a single problem since she walked in here. She folds her blanket every morning. She doesn't ask for extras. She doesn't complain. If you're here about her mother's medical bills, you can talk to me first." Ethan stepped forward. "Ma'am, she's not in trouble. She helped me 2 nights ago in the storm. I'm here to thank her." Martha studied his face. Something shifted. "You're the one from the snow." "Yes, ma'am." She held his gaze for a long time. Then she turned and walked to the back. "Wait here." 2 minutes later, Olivia appeared from the hallway. She was wearing the same clothes, same sneakers. Her hands were still cracked from yesterday's dishes. She looked at Harrison first, confusion, then at Ethan. She stopped walking. He looked different, clean, rested, standing upright. But she recognized him instantly. The eyes, the way he held himself, the slight tilt of his head when he was unsure. "Ethan?" "Hi, Olivia." How did you find me?" He held up the scarf. Grace T. She stared at the navy wool in his hands. Her mother's stitches. Her mother's initials. Her legs went soft, and she grabbed the edge of the front desk to steady herself. "I don't understand," she said. "Who are you?" Harrison stepped forward, professional, measured. "Miss Turner, my name is Harrison Wells. I'm the personal attorney for Ethan Brooks, CEO and sole heir of Brooks & Associates, a real estate development firm based here in Chicago." Olivia looked at Ethan, then at Harrison, then back at Ethan. "I should have told you," Ethan said quietly. "That night, I should have told you who I was." "You were freezing on a sidewalk." "I know." "In a blazer." "I know." Silence. Martha stood behind Olivia with her arms crossed, watching like a hawk. Harrison continued. "Mr. Brooks has asked me to present you with the following, on his behalf, funded entirely from his personal trust, independent of the company." He opened the leather folder. First, a full academic scholarship to the University of Illinois, Chicago. Tuition, books, housing, and a monthly living stipend. The program is social work. Mr. Brooks indicated you'd mentioned an interest in helping people, and he felt this was appropriate. You can change the major at any time. Olivia didn't move, didn't blink. Second, a furnished studio apartment in Lincoln Park. Lease prepaid for 4 years, matching the length of the degree. She pressed her hand harder against the desk. Third, and this is the part Mr. Brooks was most specific about. Harrison looked at Ethan, who nodded. The establishment of the Grace Turner Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to homeless outreach, winter relief, and shelter support in the greater Chicago area. Funded by Mr. Brooks's personal trust, and he is requesting that you serve as its founding director. The room went quiet. Olivia's mouth opened. Nothing came out. She looked at the folder, looked at Ethan, looked at the scarf in his hands. You named it after my mother? Ethan nodded. She deserves it. You didn't even know her. I know what she made, and I know who she raised. Olivia's eyes filled. She pressed her lips together, hard, like she was trying to hold everything inside. It didn't work. The tears came anyway. Silent, steady, running down her face and dropping onto the front desk. I can't take this, she said. I didn't help you because I wasn't trying to get anything. I know, Ethan said. That's exactly why. He stepped closer, extended the scarf toward her with both hands. Your mom was right, Olivia. Kindness is never wasted. She took the scarf, pressed it against her face, breathed in. It smelled different now, like hotel soap and a stranger's skin and something she couldn't name. But underneath, faint, still there, dish soap and lavender and grace. Martha turned away, wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist. She'd run this shelter for 19 years, seen thousands of faces. Most left the same way they came in. But once in a while, once in a long, long while, she saw someone walk out different. Ethan leaned in, close enough that only Olivia could hear. That night, you told me you just don't stop walking. I want you to know, you're the reason I stopped running. Olivia looked up at him, through the tears, through the scarf, through everything. And for the first time in 6 months, she didn't feel like a girl who'd lost everything. She felt like someone who'd been found. 3 months later, Olivia Turner walked into her first college class. She sat in the 3rd row, notebook open, pen ready. Her hands, the same hands that had scrubbed plates for 12 hours a day, were shaking. Not from cold this time, from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The professor asked everyone to introduce themselves. When it was Olivia's turn, she stood up, cleared her throat. I'm Olivia Turner. I'm studying social work. I used to be homeless. The room went quiet. Not the uncomfortable kind, the kind where people lean in. I'm here because someone showed me that a second chapter is possible, and I want to do the same for others. She sat down. Her heart was pounding. But for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The apartment in Lincoln Park was small. 1 room, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, a bathroom with a shower that took 3 minutes to get warm. But it had a window that faced east, and every morning the sun came through and landed on the wall where Olivia had hung two things: a photograph of Grace and the navy blue scarf in a simple wooden frame. She talked to them every morning. Quick, quiet. Just a few words before she left for class. "I'm still walking, Mama." The Grace Turner Foundation launched in January. Olivia ran it from a donated office space on Division Street, 3 blocks from the spot where she'd found Ethan in the snow. She started small. 50 scarves hand-knitted by volunteers from the university, 100 meal kits, a list of every shelter in Cook County with open beds. The first distribution night, 12 people showed up to volunteer. By the second week, 43. By the end of February, local news picked it up. From homeless to foundation director, the scarf that changed 2 lives. The story went viral. Not the sensational kind, the quiet kind. The kind people shared with a message that said, "This made me cry." Churches reached out. Businesses donated. A coat company in Wisconsin sent 300 jackets with a note, "For Olivia, keep them warm." By spring, the foundation had served over 800 people. Coats, scarves, meals, shelter referrals, medical screenings, job training connections. Martha became the foundation's senior advisor. She knew more about what homeless people actually needed than any board member ever would. Tony saw Olivia on the news one evening. He was sitting in his diner, wiping down the counter, when her face appeared on the screen above the register. The same girl who'd scrubbed his plates for $6.50 an hour. The same girl he'd yelled at for being slow. He turned the volume up, watched the whole segment, said nothing. Then he went to the back kitchen, looked at the dish station, and sat down on the stool where Olivia used to sit during her 10-minute breaks. He stayed there for a long time. Ethan fought the board and won. Harrison filed an injunction challenging Victoria Caldwell's emergency vote. The court ruled in Ethan's favor. Raymond's will was explicit: sole heir, full control, no board override. Victoria resigned before the next meeting. 3 directors followed her out. Ethan took the CEO chair for the first time on a Tuesday morning in March. He wore a navy tie. Nobody asked why. His first executive order? 30% of Brooks & Associates' annual profits would be redirected to community development, affordable housing, small business grants, shelter infrastructure. The board members who stayed didn't love it, but they respected it. Because the young man who'd walked out 3 months ago had come back different, steadier, clearer, like someone who'd found a reason to stand. Ethan and Olivia. It didn't happen all at once. It happened the way real things do, slowly and then completely. He started picking her up after class, just to drive her home. Then they'd sit in the car and talk. 10 minutes became an hour. An hour became dinner. Dinner became every night. He never talked down to her. She never treated him like a billionaire. They were just Ethan and Olivia, the 2 people who sat on a frozen sidewalk and told each other the truth when they had nothing left to lose. On the first warm night of spring, they walked past the corner of Halsted and Division. The awning was still there. The shoe repair shop was still closed. Ethan stopped, looked at the spot where she'd found him. "This is where it started," he said. Olivia took his hand. "No. This is where we both stopped being alone." 1 year later, the snowstorm came back. Not the same one, but close enough. The forecast said 8 inches. The temperature dropped to -12. The city braced itself the way Chicago always does, with salt trucks and swearing, and everyone pretending they're not afraid of the cold. Olivia and Ethan were ready. The Grace Turner Foundation had grown beyond anything Olivia imagined. 3 full-time staff, 80 regular volunteers, a warehouse on the west side filled with coats, scarves, blankets, and meal kits, partnerships with 14 shelters across Cook County, a hotline that connected people to open beds in real time. But tonight wasn't about numbers. Tonight was personal. Olivia stood outside Halstead Community Shelter in a warm coat. Her first real winter coat, the one Ethan had given her last Christmas. She wore it every day in the cold, but around her neck, always, the navy blue scarf. Not in a frame tonight, on her skin, where it belonged. Ethan stood beside her, not behind her, not in front. Beside, the way he always did now. They handed out scarves together, one by one, each one hand-knitted by a volunteer, each one tucked into a clear bag with a note inside. You matter. Grace Turner Foundation. The line stretched around the block. An old man took a scarf and held it to his face. A young mother wrapped one around her daughter and whispered something in her ear. A teenager, maybe 16, alone, no coat, stood at the edge of the line, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be there. Olivia walked over to him. He flinched when she approached, not from fear, from surprise. The surprise of being seen. She knelt down, the same way she'd knelt beside Ethan 1 year ago on this same street, and wrapped a scarf around his neck. Gray wool, soft, warm. It's yours, she said. I can't. You can. He looked at her, eyes wide, the same look Ethan had given her that night, the look of someone who'd forgotten what kindness felt like. Why? He asked. Olivia smiled. Because someone did it for me once. Now it's your turn. She stood up. Ethan was watching from a few feet away. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just looked at her the way he always did, like she was the reason he believed in anything at all. That night, after the last scarf was given away and the last person had gone inside, Olivia stood alone on the sidewalk for a moment. Snow falling. Quiet. She pressed the navy blue wool against her face, closed her eyes. We did it, Mama. We're still walking. Grace Turner never got to see what her scarf became. But somewhere, somehow, she already knew. Olivia Turner had nothing. No home, no family, no money. Just a scarf her dying mother knitted with trembling hands, the wool still warm from her last breath. And she wrapped it around a stranger's neck in a snowstorm, without thinking, without asking, without knowing he'd come back. She didn't do it for a reward. She did it because her mother taught her one thing: kindness is never wasted. And it wasn't. So let me ask you this. If you were standing in the snow, freezing, holding the last thing someone you loved ever made, and a stranger was dying in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. If this story hit you the way it hit me, share it with someone who's forgotten that good people still exist. And subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be heard. Low key. Given when you got nothing left isn't weakness. It's love. Real kindness doesn't wait for convenience. It shows up anyway. What you give away is never wasted. It always finds